Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Node.js Technical Steering Committee meeting of the 11th of June 2025. I'm joined here with the rest of the TSC member, a few of them at least. As things stand, I am on a coffee shop because I'm taking a flight in an hour and a half. So in case I am dropping, whatever, Ruben will take over, or in case my internet goes down. Anyhow, let's get started with our usual agenda. And let's see how well we are. Right. So first of all, are there any announcements? I don't see any announcements. So good. Then thank you very much for whoever's helping with the minutes. Thank you. Okay. No announcements. Okay. I want to remember to nominate people for the contributor spotlight. Essentially, if you're not familiar with this program, it has been restarted. So it's a way to recognizing contributors that did really solid work in the last month or so. Then we have, we can start with the normal agenda. Oh, we have CPC and board meeting updates. I don't think there's been much of an update on that front. The all important part is that there are new marketing guidelines coming up. So in case you work on the website or other things, please reach out with the publishing blog post. I will soon be updating the governance, updating the guidelines or adapting those guidelines for all of you to use. Then we have Node.js/Node. First issue is issue 58423, which is update npm 11 to in Node 22. And I don't see any discussion mostly. So what do you guys think?
Well, these updates have been controversial in the past. So we need to obviously make sure the impact is minimal, which is what the discussion in the repo says.
Yes, but they can no, like very few TSC members join the discussion. So if we can also handle it asynchronously, but if somebody can join, then it would be good. One thing, the biggest change is a noisy warning. If there are non npm config in npm.npmrc files. This has been a free-for-all for PNPM and others to put things in there. And I think the NPM team removed that a bit. Frankly, personally, I am okay with that annoying breaking change, mostly because I've been dealing with it already. But it's I generically am not seeing. I think it would be better for long-term stability to upgrade versus that.
So in other words, if they just read the screen and all the messages that they see on screen, they will be fine.
Yes.
So that's it, I guess, right? I mean, at least
yes. Yes. This is my read of the changes. I don't know, Richard, you investigated this a little bit, right?
No, not really. There was a discussion when npm 11 was put into Node's main branch, and I just regurgitated the comments from that PR. So there were things declared to be this is the reason that npm 11 is Semver major, and then there was discussion when it originally landed into Node as to what that meant for users of Node as opposed to users of npm. So yeah, it is obviously Semver major, but it's more debatable as to how much of that Semver major, breakness would actually affect users of Node. Obviously, as you've pointed out, um, the deprecation warnings, will be very visible depending on what your dependencies look like and how you have decided to, configure. So, for an example, for people not following, one of the things that was using or abusing the ability to set things that were not npm configs in npm's own config file was Node.js. So if you were installing a module that needed to compile itself, if you needed to pass options to Node.js, the way most people did it was to put npm underscore config options in their npm rc file. That would then be passed to Node.js. But that's the kind of thing that will now warn and in the future not allow. So I don't know. I haven't been following Node.js closely enough to figure out if there's an alternate way to pass those options through to the scripts. But that's the kind of thing that is going to be visible to people. In terms of history, we have always had a disconnect between what we would like Node's long-term support policy to be and how npm doesn't have a long-term support policy at all. And there's always been tension between npm releasing new versions and then trying to get that backported as far as possible into older Node release lines, and us trying to balance. Well, we don't want to disrupt people that are dependent on long-term support versions of Node for running for their production environments. So there is a balancing act to be had here, coupled with the long-term maintainability, because older versions of npm do not get updates. So if we say we don't put npm 11 into Node 22, then npm 10 is not getting updates. So that essentially means no more npm updates in Node 22. Now, we kind of do that to some extent, because at some point there will become a point where an npm major will be too breaking to actually backport to older release lines. I don't know if this one is it. It might not be, but technically speaking, it is Semver major. So this requires a TSC decision or agreement that we will be breaking the release policy, which is Node follows Semver, and that we will be able to, as a community, handle inevitable bug reports or forward them on. Let's say we had a deployment workflow, and now you've this new Semver minor or patch version of Node has broken their pipeline or whatever it is, because it's spewing out messages that it doesn't their pipelines don't account for.
I mean, I see what you're saying, Richard. The thing is that now we already have npm 11 on Node 24. And my suggestion, I mean, as you say, since the older version are not updated, I would say my point would be try to upgrade it now, since we also have 4 months before 22 goes to maintenance LTS. So we also have plenty of, at least a bit of leeway in order to see if we eventually have to revert if it causes too much disruption, or maybe not. So that would be my proposal. Have we ever got any report from people on 24 if the upgrade to npm broke them in any way, or as usual, nobody's using the latest version, so we have no idea?
I don't know offhand. I know that there were complaints to Node.js, but I can't remember if those were people trying to use Node 24 or independently trying to update npm. Because whatever version of Node you're on, you can install npm on its own into your global module prefix and pick that up. So some people are using Node.js. Some people have reported bugs to Node.js, which is I can no longer configure Node.js via the way that's documented on Node.js README. And I haven't been following that closely enough to know if there's been a workaround for that. At the moment, I guess it's like it still kind of works, but you've got these deprecation messages out. So I cannot remember if those were people that were just trying Node 24 or they independently tried to upgrade to npm 11. But I don't think I've seen anything on our main tracker, and I don't follow npm's tracker closely enough to know if people reported issues there instead.
I see.
Okay, is there are we all in agreement for updating, or are there anybody objecting, want to discuss more?
I mean, this has happened a couple of times before, and like I had a look at the breaking changes in 11 from their release notes, and like I cannot tell how bad it is by just looking at that, but it doesn't sound like it will likely hit a lot of our users in a bad way. And like in this case, we should just, like we have the difficult situation and we have to update. In this case, I don't really see a way around. So let's do that out of my perspective.
From my point of view, I mean, I looked at a list of changes that are documented in the issue. A little bit confused about the definition of breaking changes in this context. Largely from a code point of view, it's very clear, but from an NPM point of view, which is largely console-based interactive activities where breaking changes essentially would mean the previous command is not working, or command is removed, or command is behaving totally differently, etc. There is a thin boundary between user annoyance and breaking changes here. So my recommendation here, or my way of thinking here, is this list looks okay despite users having little annoyance, but it would be worthwhile to discuss further about how we can drive NPM aligned to the LTS philosophy of Node, where breaking changes are aligned on major version boundaries going forward in the long run.
We've tried and been unsuccessful. I mean, NPM just basically do not have an LTS policy. They're not going to have an LTS policy. So we are having to deal with it in, I don't know, a less than ideal, as best as we can judge. There's nowhere. This is not a new problem. This has been for years and years and years, where they say NPM will come and say, like, we want to get this Semver major version of NPM into this LTS version of Node, and we'll say, but Node is Semver major, and can't have these breaking changes. And then we have a debate about what's breaking and what isn't breaking. Eventually, we might allow it into like one of the releases, but maybe not all of the releases. And then we say, like, we shouldn't, don't want to have these discussions every time. Let's try and have some discussion as to how to avoid that in the future. And it just happens again the next time, and it happens again the next time. So yeah, I don't see how that's going to be solved. It's just a fundamental mismatch between the release philosophies of NPM and the release philosophies of Node, and it doesn't help that NPM people change over time, and we have the same discussions with the new people. But it's not a, they are not going to bend their release policy for us. So in the same way that we're not going to bend our release policy for anyone else that wants to consume Node. So it is what it is.
Okay. Paolo.
No, you were next, Matteo. You raised that.
Yeah, I totally forgot. Well, I was taking notes, and I can't talk and take notes at the same time. So
I see. I mean, I will reiterate my point. If npm is not supporting older version, I mean, actually, that's even one more thing to think about it. If npm is not supporting older version, keeping these, do you want to go first, Matteo, before you forget again?
yeah, no, yes, please, thank you. So my take here is I think it's breaking for npm because they dropped support for old node version.
Oh,
Like they dropped node 18.
I see. The problem is that, in my opinion, we should not take, even if, I mean, between annoying some user because they want to read the screen, and between keeping a version on a future LTS version that the producer itself is not supporting is a bad idea, in my opinion. I would say let's annoy people now that they still have time to upgrade, rather than later when, for instance, we find a security issue in NPM and we have to forcefully update to an 11 when it's already an active LTS and so forth. Because it's a risk, even on a security viewpoint, it's risky, because if they don't support older version and we keep an older version in-house, we are F.
So from a release point of view, there's a difference between landing a breaking change on a long-term support line, which we do have a policy for, but only for security reasons. So it's fine. We can declare, for example, that it's a security risk to not upgrade npm in Node 22. But then my personal view is that I would prefer to do that in an actual security, a release that's marked as a security release, because then at least you are aware that there's a possibility, or well, if you read the release policy, that a security release may have a break and change in it if we deem that that break and change is necessary for the security of Node. Now, I'm less keen on dropping break and changes into normal versions of Node in LTS, because people then assume they can update to like a patch version and it should be the same behavior. For npm 11, I don't think it's just a user annoyance thing. There was at least one change, which was it doesn't run some type of script automatically. It's like a post or a pre-script that doesn't get run automatically. So that will be an observable behavioral change if you or your dependents happen to be using those scripts. But I couldn't honestly tell you how widespread that is, because there's a large number of npm lifecycle scripts, and I don't know that all of them are commonly used. But definitely, if we're in the situation where you were dependent on one of these pre or post scripts running, then they don't automatically get run. I can't remember which lifecycle event it is. I'd have to look back at the PR. But again, it's one of those, like, it's very hard to gauge how breaking that breaking thing is.
But Richard, you basically reiterate. I mean, you reiterate my point. I know that of course, we can apply a breaking change if.
Guys, sorry to interrupt, Paolo.
Yep.
Richard, are you in favor?
I'm honestly on the fence. I think
okay,
it probably.
Perfect. No, I just wanted to clarify.
I would be
just wanted to clarify it, because I didn't want to waste time debating something where everybody was in agreement. Okay.
Yeah.
So just sorry for the interruption, Paolo. Go ahead.
No worries. I will briefly reiterate the things that I know that we can make breaking changes update during a security update, because security goes first. But since now we have the time to do in advance before it becomes a security problem, just for what I've read, the changelog is not really a huge breaking point from users. I would say let's do now. That's my point. But before having to do that in a security release where people upgrade a security, a firmware patch, they receive npm 11 for free and they freak out because everything breaks and they have no time to properly prepare. That's my point.
So what I would like to happen from a release point of view is that you Paolo, or anyone else that has opinions like that, to write those in the PR, because I think what we have to treat this, that the original PR is Semver major, And instead of arguing, was it or was it not Semver Major, we should be having the discussion in the PR as, yes, we acknowledge the original PR was Semver Major, but for these reasons, we are going to overrule the Semver policy and drop this into Node 22. So, people could chime in with their, support of that, and then, the release team can act on that recommendation.
Okay, so you want me to leave a comment in the issue, right?
Yes, please. You and
Okay.
anyone else that has views either way.
Okay.
But rather than have the discussion here and then rely on people finding the notes, write it in there, and then it will allow people to respond.
I see. I will summarize my view in the issue.
Thank you.
No problem.
Perfect, guys. Okay, let's move to issue number 58328. Clarify the scope of disallow code generation from string.
Yeah, I think I clarified this agenda item. The original scope of the flag disallow code generation from strings was from V8. So the effect of this flag was only applying to the eval and the new function because it's implemented in V8. So the person who requests a clarification on this flag wants this flag to cover other Node.js features like import as well, because the module system is implemented in Node, and now that we support import data URL in Node as well, so they thought that this flag should disallow the import data flag, the import data URL when this flag is specified. So this is out of the scope of the original disallow code generation from stream flag, and the pull request is just to try to clarify that the scope of the flag is only on the eval and the new function, which was originally implemented in V8. So we can expand the scope of the flag, but I think that would be more a new feature rather than a bug fix. So I would say that this is not a security issue as the author of the issue originally requested. So yeah, that's all.
I think the original intention of the feature should be on it. And if we want to extend the behavior of the flag, that's a feature request. That's probably a breaking change, extending the scope. However, the PR, the original documentation as well as the new one is very wishy-washy, and I would say if the feature only works by blocking eval and new function, that's the exact thing, that's the exact wordage that it should be having. Nothing more. No words like and no exceptions, right? Just say make built-in language features, namely eval new function that generates strings for code from strings, throw an exception. Dot. Full stop, nothing more. It is very clear, very concise in what it's doing, and there is no interpretation, there is no confusion when you read that about whether it does work on imports as well.
So you were suggesting that you were suggesting like rewarding the pull request to remove the word like
Pretty
and
much, yes.
replace it with namely.
Namely.
To exhaust,
Well,
yeah.
Even namely allows for, well, maybe there's something more. So if the original feature was meant for these two JavaScript language features, eval and new function, then only those two should be mentioned and nothing more. And then expanding the scope is a feature request that will come with, whatever similarness it applies and so on.
Yeah, sure. Would you mind commenting
I
on the
will
pull
summarize.
request? Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Philippine. Well, I'll also leave a comment later, but I think we should also make sure that people are aware this is a VA flag, and can go away any time, like all the other VA flags, and they should not depend on a VA flag for security stuff.
Well, yeah, I think we have a history that documenting weird flags in Node.js CLI.md, but we didn't specify them as a weird flag clearly. So this is one of them. I think, yeah, the suggestion is good that we should clearly say that these flags are weird flags and they can change at any time.
Or like
And
remove it. Sorry.
I don't think we should remove some of them.
Oh,
Like I think
no,
there are flags like specifying heap size. I think that they are pretty useful.
no, I mean, if VA removes them, there's nothing we can do. Well, we can polyfill, but like VA can remove them. So there's no guarantee that this will stay forever. That kind of thing.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Anyway, please comment on the pull request, and it'll be great.
Okay, I'll do that. And I also saw that Darshan mentioned that there's a different section uh for VA options. Maybe we should move them there. Oh, it's
Yeah,
already there.
true.
It's just that we don't put the explanation there, but they look funny. They look like a bunch of titles without explanation. But we probably should move them there.
Okay, guys, I think we have covered this topic. There is some actions on the TR, so I think we can move forward with this. Okay. Unless anybody else has anything to discuss. Next topic is PR 58282, which is the revert of the test change. Is there, can we discussed this last time, I think, if I recall, but I don't see much engagement on the PR. So I don't think, I think we should, like, if you can comment on the PR, I don't think there is much more to discuss compared to last time. There was no tape.
I think we should get a feedback from Colin.
Okay.
We pinged him last week or 2 weeks ago, and there was no engagement afterwards. I mean, we can obviously revert the whole thing, but I think it would be valuable to keep parts of it that can stay, because those actually resolve the number of pain points with the API. But I think Colin is the only one at this, by brief looking at the issue, who could tell us whether these need to be reverted all at once or whether they can go partially.
Can you please write that sentence somewhere and ping him in the PR? Okay, thank you, Philip. so that at least, so then I have a question that I can send to Colin. Hopefully he will get me an answer. Okay, great. Then issue 1747 in the TSC repo. And self-serve model for Darshan, you added this to the TSC agenda?
Yeah, I can talk about this one. So last time when we were discussing the feature bounty program, I was requested to create a concrete proposal about what I was thinking. So that's what this issue is about. So just to recap everybody about the main problem that this is trying to solve is that companies and individuals want to fund Node.js work, and there are some Node.js maintainers who are open to receiving funds for their contributions. So how can we provide a self-serve way for funders to connect with those maintainers? So for this, what I suggested is that if you open the nodejs.org website, there is a list of headers at the top. So I was suggesting that we can add a new header to this list, which is called funding, and it would open into a new web page that would have contents about the various ways in which you can fund things in Node. So the first one being directed funding for OpenJS Foundation members. I also added the link which has more info about this. So that covers this. Next thing is about donating via GitHub or Open Collective, and more info about how we plan to use these funds when it reaches the limits where we can start using those. And finally, the last one is about funding individual contributors. So this is the one which lists out a directory of maintainer info. So things like the name, the contact info, and areas of interest and expertise. And this would be followed by a statement that says that companies and individuals may connect directly with maintainers. The Node.js project does not oversee these engagements and is not responsible for any disputes or outcomes. So I see that Matteo did post some suggestions, and I took a couple of them, but there is one final suggestion that requires some discussion again, I guess. So this is about pointing directly to the collaborators list that we have in the Node repo README. So my line of thinking is that we can definitely do that, but there are some limitations. So the limitations from my side are that it lacks info about the areas of interest and expertise of these maintainers, and this is critical for this problem statement. And secondly, it doesn't include maintainers outside the collaborators list. So if you think about the website team, for example, that's a critical part of Node, and the collaborators list doesn't have info about them. And the next one is not everyone listed in the collaborators list is interested in getting contacted for this kind of thing. And the other one is from a reader's perspective, parsing this info on the Node.js website seems much more discoverable and accessible than going through a markdown document on GitHub. So I'm not sure what you folks think about this. So yeah.
Girish?
Yeah, I like the idea. And I mean, as long as there are interested parties to fund for getting things done or fix a bug, security or functional, or improve some functionality, and there are interested contributors who can receive the fund and provide that capability. I mean, we shouldn't be a blocker for that, and it should only be viewed as an improvement, progress to the project. So maybe there are two parts to it. One is the legal aspect, or the actual yes or no kind of thing with the approval from the foundation, and then second one is the operational aspect, the logistical aspect. Maybe we should start by addressing the first part, and then the second problem, logistical problem, may evolve over time, is what I'm thinking. But in theory, I support this initiative.
So thank you, Jirish. I was chatting about this with the marketing team at the foundation, and they were adamant that no such list was part of the Node.js website itself. Okay. If we ask that list somewhere in our org, I think that would be different. Okay. But if they were adamant that that list was not part of the website, specifically because they are when the Node.js project asked about ways to companies to find work on Node.js and providing implementation partners. Um, uh, the board is taking action to that question, and we will be looking at implementing the partner program so companies could reach out to other companies that are a member of the foundation to do some work. This will be also a clear benefit of joining as a member of the foundation, which will help our funds, our diminishing funds. So I think that is also worthwhile. Sorry, can somebody else write this down? Rana?
Yeah, so I think this is a great idea in general. It has been a frustration of mine personally. I think it would also be nice if it's not just, people that want to fund something have a place to go, but people that need funding for a feature or an idea would also be quite good because I've often been in situations where somebody came with an idea that, I didn't even know would be possible. So that would be nice. I think this is going to be difficult to do as part of the organization, the Node organization. And I think I mentioned it in the previous time I was here to discuss this, that I think this would be easiest to achieve outside of the organization. Do a nodefund.org website that is, indirectly related to organization. It can be people that are working in the organization that actually do the work, but it doesn't have to be part of the Node.js legal/organizational umbrella.
I guess we can try to include parts of that too in this implementation, like in the areas of interests and expertise. We can also list out probably some free-form text about other features that are not really in place yet, to something that you wish to work on. And yeah, I think it should be possible. And regarding the legal side of things, I believe if this is not something that's appropriate for putting on the website, I guess we can move it to GitHub. But I'm not sure what the best place would be. Like, I think the current list and like the collaborators list is not ideal. Maybe we could create a separate one. It could be something in another Markdown file or maybe a wiki page. Not sure.
Does GitHub sponsors somehow provide something for this that you can, on GitHub mark that you're interested on getting sponsored for work on a specific project?
No idea.
Because with something like that, we wouldn't actually have to do so much from our side per se.
I don't think so, but this is a feature request that we can bring to GitHub. basically, GitHub sponsors allow you to specify which project you are working on. So if you can list one of Node.js as one of those projects, having a page, hey, you see all the people that wants to get sponsored for this project, might be good.
And that could include, what kind of areas they like to work on, or whether you can put in GitHub sponsors, your description of what you're working on.
I don't know. Like at this point, it's wishy-washy. Okay.
Yeah.
It's wishful thinking. Okay. So I don't. Anyway, I can ask if they can, if they will do this for me.
I guess for now, the ask from my side is if it would be okay if we are able to create a separate list based on the info I provided somewhere in the Node.js GitHub org.
I don't see a problem with that.
Okay.
Me neither.
Any preferences on what the best place for such a thing might be?
I will propose admin, but so that we can include also the website and other things.
Just to be clear, you mentioned that it's the admin repo, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Okay. I think we can move to the next issue. Issues 1745. I think there's nothing to discuss here. I don't know. There was an issue request from Rod. I think we should discuss with Rafael when Rafael is here. I don't think there's much to add. Okay. Next issue is CI situation 1614. Is there anything new here?
So probably I missed last 1 or 2 meetings. So 3-4 sittings before we actually discussed about this and decided that just keeping the issue open and visiting in every TSC sitting doesn't help really make progress. Instead, what would make a reasonable thing is to identify a champion and run it as a separate initiative that empower the champion to take decisions to improve the CI situation, maybe start a team or a working group to address that and come up with a proposal to address that. So I send out a mail to the TSC asking for any comments or objections. And given 2 weeks time, I haven't heard any objections. So I think now we can go ahead and decide what to do next, basically to see if anybody is willing to take this upon themselves. So is there anyone in the team who is willing to be a champion on the CI situation?
Guys, I'm sorry, I need to drop. I will leave Ruben in charge, okay, of hosting the meeting, okay? Sorry, I need to go and take a plane. Bye, folks.
Right.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
All right.
I don't see anybody commenting or raising their hand. So probably we should ask the question to the wider TSC. I think I will reply to the mail and asking for a champion if anybody is willing. Is that a good action, Ruben?
For me personally, yeah, but I'm not the only one to ask out of my perspective. So, I mean, let's go for it. The CI situation is always tricky. Like,
Yeah.
having for it is a good idea.
All right. So I will reply to the same mail and ask if anybody is willing to take it upon. Thank you.
Now we're at the end of the regular topics. Do we have I'm not sure anymore. We didn't ask in the beginning actually if we have a private section today or not. Does anyone have topics for private sections? Well, I take that as a no, and since we are actually before time through the agenda, I guess we can end early today. I wish everyone a good day, and we'll see each other next week.
Thank you.
Have a nice one.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.